Good evening, and welcome to another interview here on Game Wisdom for our Perceptive Podcast series. For tonight's cast, we're going to be discussing the topic of localization when it comes to video games. Some of the challenges of doing that, especially adapting a game for different cultures. And my guest tonight is from the company Alconost that specializes in localization of games. So please welcome Alexander. How are you doing?
Hello, doing great. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. It's a pleasure to chat with you. For anyone listening, I'm always looking for guests for this series for all aspects of game design and game dev. So please do not hesitate to reach out any way that you can. But this should be an interesting conversation. I've spoken with a few localization people over the years, but it's been quite a while. I know things have certainly changed, of course, in the last 5 to 10 years with how much the industry has become more globalized. So, to get the ball rolling, since this is your first time on the cast, could you talk a little bit about who you are and what is your background when it comes to the industry?
My name is Alexander. I am a CEO of Alconost, a game localization company. We translate into 120 languages. It's not only games, it's apps, websites, anything that is intended for a global audience. So my personal background is software development. So 20 years ago, I was a software developer who was developing software and selling it to the world. Obviously, I needed to translate it into different languages, so I invited some translators, I managed them, and I was involved in the community of developers who were like me, developing their softwares and games and selling to the world. I helped them to translate, and in this way, the company started. So among those developers, there were, of course, game developers, and I remember the name of Playrix. That was the game company that has emerged from that time, from that community. So this how it started, and then with years, company became more mature with 1,500 clients and around 1,500. So that was okay. 1,500 translators of the world, and more than 3,000 companies who are the clients. So I'm mixing numbers.
That's all right. So when did actually you found Alconost?
So it was 204. To be precise, but the legal entity I created that in the United States in 2012.
So, with your company, I guess my first question I want to ask you, as you said, you've been around for quite a while, doing localization and translation. Yeah. I guess how has that, or has it changed at all over the past 20 years? Because again, when we talk about game design, the game dev space, we see rapid changes almost month by month these days.
Yeah, absolutely. It has changed a lot and many times. So back in times 20 years ago, we were translating game resources. They were text files, sometimes unstructured. Sometimes we localized even executables when we just injected some text into executables. That was hell, really, untestable. So then with the localization platforms appeared. That was 15 maybe years ago. Platforms like Crowding, Transfex. So they appeared and they simplified a lot. So using those platforms, translators could work not only with the files themselves, but on the platform. When the developers, they started to build their localization pipeline in the proper way, separating the localizable resources from the code, and then uploading to the platform. And then the translators were able to translate, and the developers, they would just downloaded all their languages and the files that were not corrupted, that were well structured, and for different platforms. So that was the pivotal point of localization back there. And for the company, history, we have had several pivotal points. Adding more regions. We started with European languages, and suddenly we encountered that there was Arabic language, which right to left layout, and that was a surprise not only to us but also to the developers. So we need some technology to advise some SDKs. And another point was when SDKs that load translation on the fly appeared. So that allowed to not to republish games on the App Store or Google Play, to add more languages or to fix them. So SDKs allowed to just add the languages on the fly. So another thing that is happening right now is AI. Of course, this changes many things in localization industry. And when ChatGPT 3 appeared and we tested how it translates, we were kind of frightened of what will be happening to the industry. But now we are calm, because we understood that there is still human in the loop must be involved for the best of the quality. We have some cases now that involved AI-driven translation for some locales by requests of our clients in games, and we see that it really changes the pipeline, but the humans are still needed because they bear responsibility for the quality. Somebody must check that everything is good with the translation, and this is what the translators they were doing this for ages. Back in times, there was Google Translate, there was DeepL, some other machine translation engines, and now it's AI. Great addition. So it changes, but the industry is changing. But we are looking forward to translate more. It opens space for translation for the content that was not ever translated. That's my take on this change.
Mm-hmm. And I know with kind of discussions we've had about like using Gen AI and ChatGPT in the game dev side of things, it has become very polarized. I know there's a lot of people who just aren't a fan of using like software like that. They still feel, again, like the human element should be first and foremost. Yeah, I understand this, and the same situation is between the translators. They are also polarized. Some of them they just don't use it. Some of them already proofreading Gen AI generated translations, and this implication, this Gen AI implementation into translations. Translation must be precise, but Gen AI is hallucinating and giving sometimes very good sounding translations, but they are not translations. They are recreations. They are creations, different. That's different text. So if talking about games, that's sometimes really great because it's like recreation, not just translation. That's good for games.
provided that all the terms, all the glossary terms, all the items, all the character names, everything is preserved, and the localization platforms now allow to check if your glossary terms, for example, are present in the translation. And so if we properly prompt GenAI, if we're using RAG for retrieving the translation memory and glossary terms, then GenAI translation might work in a very good way. For games, which is a creative, which there is a creative translation, that's good. But for legal translation, for example, or some technical terms, it's not sometimes working good because of this hallucination. They just invent some texts that are not in the source, and that's the problem. But for games, sometimes it's not a problem.
Mm-hmm. And again, like, it's going to be very interesting to see like how things will like shake out ultimately over the next few years for it. And with like your company and doing like translations of games from different languages, one thing that I wanted to really like touch on is the idea of, I guess, adapting like the cultures or cultural aspect of what your company does, like localize or localization. For people who are listening who aren't familiar with like this particular aspect, could you go into a little bit more detail about like what this entails?
When you think about localizing a game, you start with internationalization. This is technically preparing your game for localization. So what I mean is this is separating string resources from the code and placing them into these separate files, and then implementing two languages at the very beginning. So implementing two languages allows you to think about localization, how the languages will be switching. So at least you will have a language switcher, and all your interface will be available right away in two languages. This will help you think about how to implement this. Every language, a programming language, allows doing this. So whether you're developing in Swift or Kotlin or Java, whatever, they have libraries that allow implementing localization. And that's not only string resources, but also it's about currencies, displaying euro signs or dollar signs or other signs, whether this sign goes before or after the number. Also, this number formatting with this, whether it's comma or whether it's dot, nobody knows, which it depends on the language. And also, you will be thinking about implementing different fonts. Especially, this is very important for games because your English super fancy pixel font will not be available in Japan because nobody cared about adding the glyphs, all those 10,000 probably glyphs to the font to display all the hieroglyphs. So that might be a problem. Also, there is a thing like right to left layout in Hebrew or in Arabic languages. So the game must be capable of doing this, and those are technical. But this is like technical meet cultural things that developers they don't think about this, and also the texts. There is there are lots of tricky things in localizing texts. When what I'm telling about is using variables in the text. So splitting text into two parts and then concatenating them on the fly will not work. So using placeholders is the way. The order of the words in different languages is absolutely different. So in English, it's one way. In Japanese, it's different way. So placing some word in the first place in English will not work with Japanese, which will be placing some word to the end of the sentence. So using variables is a must. Moving further, cultural things, the images. The images, sometimes game developers, they just hardcode the images. They don't have the images in the localization kits. That might be mistake, because some colors in different cultures might be considered having some meaning, additional meaning. Also about the characters. It's very hard to localize some Japanese game into for the English-speaking audience. The characters should be redrawn. It should be redrawn, but that's impossible. So everybody in the world plays Japanese games with anime characters, and this is impossible to localize because it's so culturally dependent. So you cannot localize Japanese culture, and the same way goes backwards when you're localizing for Japanese. Everybody in Japan will be playing Western game, understanding that that's a Western game that is localized, that was localized. What can be localized is subtitles, of course, some voiceovers, but it could be. It's also kind of weird because some anime characters having native English pronunciation. That's kind of weird. Anyway, what can be localized is at least subtitles and voiceovers, and of course all the text. What is hard to localize is jokes. We have had a case. There was a game about a cafe where you are like bar master, just making some drinks, and you have some recipes to prepare your drinks, and there were customers coming to the cafe, and they were just there were some dialogues between the customer and the bartender, and once they introduced a character which was who were joking about the Queen of England, and that might be appropriate for European customers and for the US customers, but not for UK customers. So our QA in UK, they just flagged this the joke, any joke, that was just inappropriate for the UK audience. But maybe in the United States, the jokes about Trump or George Bush or any this kind of thing, they might be appropriate, but not about the Queen in England. So that was the case about localizing culture. Also, it's not all about culture, but the payment methods. So how people pay, it's also very important, because if this payment system that allows you to pay for the in-game items, that's very important. If someone in Europe sees the prices in US dollars, that's inappropriate. So this is one more thing to think about when localizing the game. That's it, I think.
Okay. And with kind of like localizing, I guess like as like part of like what your company does, when a developer like reaches out to you, do they reach out while the game is in development, when it's like already finished? I guess like at what part of the chain do you come in at?
Yeah, great question. Thank you very much. My favorite one. So, so there are different stages they come. Some of them they start to plan the game even commercially. There are game developers that are not indies. They just treat the game as a commercial project. So they start with advertising. The price of the traffic they will drive to the game. So sometimes they will come for the research of the audience. Sometimes they start to create a game not for the US audience because of intense competition, but for Argentina or Vietnam or something like this. So this is far before just creating the game. The experienced developers, they come when they at the very beginning of the game, because they create two languages right away, and what they need is this proper localization pipeline set up. So they might hire a localization project manager, or we can, as a company, lend them the localization project manager who will be responsible for setting up the pipeline. I mean, choosing the right platform for localization, and in the localization platform, you set up all the integrations. For example, you can integrate your platform with GitHub repository, so all the files will be available on the localization platforms. You just make commit and push to the GitHub repository, introducing new lines of some content, and the translators will instantly get this in their localization platform. They would translate, and the localization platform would just create a pull request to your repository back with all the languages. So building this requires like several hours, sometimes several days to integrate everything, and it should be done in the very beginning. So sometimes we just give a piece of free advice and helping in developers to set up this pipeline. And then there is a pause, of course, and when they create content, they have this continuous delivery pipeline. So every night they have a build that is already localized. And then when the content is ready, the large part of it, we start to translate it. So there is a negotiation about the pricing, about the team of the translators. We keep the translators consistent. So what I mean is we assign translators for the projects, and they leave, and they just stay with the project for years. We have translators that have been working for some localization projects for like more than 10 years, localizing the same games. They are players, they are experts of the games they translate. So some of the developers, they come, and this is a mistake, when they have a game, they have a release in 2 weeks, and they start to think, well, I have English in the game, but I go on Steam and I heard that Portuguese people would be willing to play in Portuguese. How should I localize? And that's creating a rush. That's creating a chaos, I would say, because sometimes the game is not ready for localization, And this is instead of marketing on Steam, instead of wish lists, thinking about traffic, about people, about gameplay, they start to think about localization. That's a mistake. I would not recommend doing this at the very end. But I think like 50% of people they come in this stage. They consider, or they try to promote it in English, and then they consider adding more languages as growth hack, just expanding the audience. And we, of course, we help them. And what we usually advise is content prioritization. So translating a game into 20 languages might be very expensive. Because of large, the content is large, the number of languages, the number of people is large, so it might be expensive. But they can start with some small steps, just localizing store description, Steam description, App Store description, Google Play description. It's not very expensive. Localizing screenshots. Localizing UI in the game, but not all the content. Some of the knowledge base might be localized using machine translation. So the prioritizing content is a key for budget cutting. Localizing just the main UX, only just 2 or 3 initial levels of the game, if they have levels. This will give the user this will give some understanding of how it is it worth it or not.
To what you said about like kind of deciding which languages to translate a game into, that's I think another very fascinating aspect of this. Like for most of the people who are listening to us right now, like gamers, maybe student developers, enthusiasts, that kind of thing, when we think about kind of like the video game markets, most will probably think of course, United States, Japan, and probably, Europe. But one of the things I think we've seen, especially the last 10 years, with so much more indie developers coming in, has been more countries obviously having more game developers, which means, of course, more languages needing to be localized. I guess, I don't know if you have this data, but I guess, like, what are some, like, other, like, popular languages or languages that developers, like, today are, like, focusing on when it comes to localization?
Research on the internet, and the list of the languages is always the same, and so let's start with the fact that over 75% of world's population, they don't speak English natively. Mm-hmm. So 75% of 7 billion people, they don't speak English, and 65% of people, they would not buy if they see a product that is not localized. They simply just don't buy. There are hardcore fans who would be playing Japanese games without knowing Japanese because they just love this. But common people, they just skip. They see the language they don't understand, and they just skip. So obviously, English language is the number one. The second one is Spanish, and there is a FIGS. There is the abbreviation of the 4 languages that that the game should be localized in Europe. So there's French, Italian, German, and Spanish. Then comes Portuguese, because of Brazil, the huge language. And then come those CGK, Chinese, two of them traditional and simplified, and then Korean, Japanese. So these are the most popular languages. Every every ChatGPT recommending to translate into, and not only ChatGPT but also every developer. Every developer localizes. Then might come Russian language, Vietnamese. For the most developed language, that's the list. That's the list. But it also depends on the marketing. If you have some clues how to promote your game, for example, in Indonesia, you have sources of cheap traffic there, or you have some influencer or some community that would stream your game, that would play, and might be worth translating into Indonesian, but they speak English there. But anyway, it depends on your efforts. You can do that are not just translating, but maybe there are influencers, and they translate for them, and they stream, and they just provide you higher ratings on the Steam charts, for example, because of the popularity in some specific region.
To go back to what you said a few minutes ago about people who will play games even if it's not in their native language, I think that's another very interesting aspect, because as like for myself, I've played and looked at a lot of like mobile games, especially those from the Japanese and Korean markets, and there are plenty of people like in the United States or outside that who will play those games even if they have no idea what the language is, just because the game is good, and they'll just try and figure it out. For people who are listening to this recorded, like, because I cover so many games on my channel, that means I cover a lot of games before any localization is done. So I've had the times where I had to play a game in like Russian or Japanese and no idea what any of it reads. And I just have to try and figure out the game on my own. And I've gotten quite good at that particular aspect of it. But to your point, of course, that is not the normal case. And one of the things that I've seen, especially from a lot of like first time or like smaller developers, is as soon as their game gets like a little bit more word of mouth, you'll see people, of course, asking, can you please translate this into this language or into that language? And therein, of course, lies that challenge, because as you were saying earlier, that you can have someone come to your company and say, yeah, the game's done, can you localize this? Versus, we're still 2-3 years out, can we begin this process now?
That's very good point. And so it's like a community-driven localization requests. This is a good way. If they ask and you just localize, they will be very grateful. Especially people like from France. They like French localization very much. This leads us to some tactics in game localization, which is called crowdsource localization. So if there is a huge game community, like take for example Minecraft. So initially, Minecraft was localized by the community. So I talked about localization platforms, and some of them allow for creating community and open source projects for free. So if you're a game developer, you go to, say, for example, the Crowdin platform, and you create a project. It's free, it's open, and you invite your community to translate your game. And especially for games, it might work. So there are lots of fans that will be considering it fun to localize a part of Minecraft. Several like strings. Everyone could contribute, and this is the way for the games with a good community. In our experience, all those community translated projects are translated up to 75-80%. And then nobody cares about the rest of 20%. So it's never 100% translated, because gamers, they are gamers. They are not translators. They just lose motivation. But if the game could motivate them, and giving some, I don't know, items for the contributions, for the translation, that might work up to 100%. But what I saw in Minecraft, it was translated with more than 50 languages or 70 languages. That's huge. Mm-hmm. And but most of the languages are not complete 100%, because people they just play the game, translate it, several sentences, and just start to play another game. But this is the way. This is the way to get at least some localizations especially for indie game developers who have the community. That's the point.
Okay. And with like the different kinds of games that Alconost has translated and the work that has been done, one of the things that you brought up earlier that I kind of want to touch on again is the challenge between different genres. If we're talking about a platformer or an action game, you typically don't need to worry too much about text. As long as the person knows how to run and jump, that's about it. If we're talking about a full-fledged RPG, especially from the mobile space where you have screens and screens of text to go through, it becomes a lot more important. So I guess the question I want to ask you is, what has been some of like the more like challenging genres or things that have been like the most challenging to do from a localization standpoint, for any developers who are listening to us?
Yeah, the most challenging thing in localization is word games. Mm-hmm. The surprise. Word games are hard to localize because, they are word games. They are very tied to the language. So word game is just for example, some cross. Just I don't know the right term. Crosswords.
Okay.
Or inserting some letters to the words, or concatenating the words, or finding the words in some building the words from some letters from some. So it works in English perfectly, but when you localize it into Korean or Japanese, it simply doesn't work. It just because it's a different game. It's a different rules. It's a different everything. So that's the most hard thing to localize, word games. Another thing is content heavy games, which are text games, which are simply text games. The gameplay is just reading and just clicking. When you select some variants of your actions, and there is some cultural aspect involved when the game setting is about some mythology or something is which has some meaning that is not in the text itself. So it's some references to some cultural things, to some maybe to some TV shows, to some I'm just don't know the right words, to something that is deep in the culture, to some stories we all know from our childhood, but the foreign people, they don't know. They don't know the things that are very deep in culture. Well, hard to explain and hard to translate. So everybody in Japan knows some creatures, some artificial creatures, some gods. They just have this knowledge from their kindergartens. But Western people, they might not know those creatures, and when they want to translate, they do not understand all the references. So translating a game from Japanese language to European is challenging when it's lots of cultural references. This usually happens with text games, and also what is challenging is, but it's more technically challenging rather than culturally challenging, when there is a huge game with lots of items, artifacts, lots of locations, lots of characters with their own names. Take, for example, Pokemon. So the huge knowledge library of different types of Pokemons. They have all their names, their technical characteristics, their story, how they evolve. So that's a Wikipedia of inside the game. And when you translate it, you must ensure that all the terms are consistent. So if it's translated in one way, then we must keep it consistent through all the translations. Because if we just mistranslate one term, then the user will be lost, just not understanding that this item was translated in one way, and then in the other part of the game, it is translated in the other part, in another way. What we use, of course, we use glossaries and style guides, glossaries to ensure that all the terms are translated properly. And modern localization platforms, they check this so that we do not mistranslate. And the most advanced thing now is being developed in the localization world is when this language QA, quality assurance, is performed by AI. AI is very capable of spotting this kind of mistranslations. So if we ask that, please check this large corpora of text for mistranslations, and giving the glossary, asking that all the terms are consistent, it works like a charm. It just spots all the mistranslations. So we use AI. We called it automated post-editing. We use AI to quality check the translation, and it really spots all those things that are inconsistent. So those are the challenges. Yeah, and also a little bit challenging is localizing voiceovers. When characters, they speak something, then in different languages, the length of the speech is different, like in text. So just translating the words is hard, and then fitting the length of the voiceovers is also challenging. So we must keep it consistent with the original, because if people there is a dialogue in the game and they talk to each other, and we localize, and there is animation of the dialogue there, and if the speech length is bigger or shorter, then it becomes misaligned, and this video becomes inconsistent with the voiceovers. So this is also challenging, but it's doable. Just lots of hard work, and it's doable.
So does your like, on the subject of like voice lines or vocals, does your company like do anything in terms of like hiring voice actors or working with voice actors, or is that like on the game dev side?
We do voiceovers, and it's a significant part of localization. We do voiceovers not only for games, but also for we are dubbing videos, commercial videos. And regarding the games, we have a set of voice actors in different languages. Professional actors who can voice characters, who can just play different roles. And for some developers, we do not only the localization of the voiceovers, but the original voicing of voicing in the game. So they come to us in early stages asking whether we could provide multilingual voiceovers for their in-game content for some characters. Yeah, so we do this, and it works. We have a database of voiceover artists, and the main problem with voiceover artists, they with years they become old, and the voice changes. So if you update your game in 5 years, it might be different voice. Surprisingly, but this happens with people. And now the AI has emerged, and for a game where the voice is just a voice, not a character voice, then it's already okay to use AI for voiceovers. It sounds good. But yeah, we do voiceovers, not only localizing, but also the original.
Now, one question I wanted to ask you before I forget, in terms of localizing text, when it comes to the game dev side, one of the challenges that I've seen that has also struck a lot of developers is when you're translating text from one language to another, and it's like not properly like lining up. If like you'll have like text, like if the text box is here, the text will show like right there. Is that another service or role that Alconost can like help developers with?
Yes, absolutely. It is called LQT, Linguistic Quality Testing, or LQA, Linguistic Quality Assurance. This is when the translator, they are taught to be also testers of the game. They translate, and then when they have the localized build, they go through the game, through all the screens, checking that everything fits good, and they are reporting all the issues into the issue tracking system of the developer, or they just fix the translations right in the localization platform, and then this is how it works. It is done by hourly rate, and developers provide us with the cheat codes, of course, to skip some levels, or that's also an approach when a developer has the special programmatic engine which does screenshots. All the screenshots in all the locales, so automatically hundreds of screenshots. This and the translator, they would test the screenshots by looking at them and reporting issues. This is another approach. But the most common way is to just have like 8 hours of game tester to run through the game and to test all the issues and report them. Then technically, it's indeed sometimes text don't fit the labels, the button sizes, etc., and sometimes it cannot be fixed by the developer because they have fixed size of button, and this is when we fix the text itself. Sometimes keeping text shorter, or just cutting it, or just rewording it in some other way. And it's a very common thing that when the developer, they have this character limit for every caption, for every button, for every title. They say it must be 35 characters and no more. And then the translator in the localization platform, they see this limitation and they try to fit it. So this is how it works. Done properly, then no problems.
And I think I am just about out of questions. For you, is there any other topics regarding Alconost or game localization that we didn't touch on that you would like to bring up?
I think we've touched pretty much everything. Just my final advice to the game developers: just if you think that your game will be localized ever, just start with 2 languages at the very beginning, and this solves you 80% of localization in the future. And also do the master language, English, because finding translators from Japanese to Portuguese is challenging. So even if your native language is not English, just have this master language, English, because it opens the localization world for you. So at least the translator will be translating from English, and they will know, sometimes they will have this third language, which is the original. They will have 2 sources, multiple sources for translation. But English is a must. So 2 languages and English as a master, and this is a good foundation for the localization done right in the future.
Mm-hmm. And from a design or development standpoint, I've heard similar advice that if you can think of how your game is going to work in at least 2 different languages, it also sets up a lot of the back end and the coding to make sure that your game can be adapted to different languages or show different symbols where it need be.
Yes, absolutely. 2 languages implies that you technically organize everything in your game that will allow localizing it to 20 languages, to 30 languages. It doesn't matter then while you have 2.
All right. So I think with that, you can start to wrap things up. Again, like for people listening, this is not exactly a game design discussion, so we can't go like for 5 to 10 hours on game design. But it has been a pleasure chatting with you this very late evening at my time, thanks to the time zones, Alex. So I guess as to start to wrap things up for our conversation, if a developer reaches out to Alconost for localization or translation work, is there a general turnaround time from when they send you the information, when you work with them, to when you have something finished?
Well, it obviously depends on the volume of the content.
Yeah.
But usually you come today, in an hour you get a reply with the request to have some some discovery call, to listen to you, to understand what's your requirements, what's your game about, what the volumes, and then you get a preliminary quote with different options, whether you are going with human only localization, or you're going with MTPE. This is machine translation post-editing. Whether will be AI involved or not. So it depends. The pricing depends on this decision. So prioritizing your content is very important. So some part of the content will go only with human translation. Some part will be machine translated and proofread. And then some part will be just AI translated, and you build this plan, and on that stage we understand the volume of the content, and we understand the time frames. And usually for a smaller game, like, I don't know, lines, bubbles, I don't know, it's a couple of days and you get your game localized. One day is the platform set up, and all the AIs and machine translation setups and team building, building the teams of the translators. You get your project manager assigned that will be with you for throughout all the project, and then we'll be supporting the updates, the coming updates. So I would, for the typical small game, it can be several days up to 1 week. But if the content, the content is huge, then of course we have capacities of the translators. We have some titles that require like up to 5 translators per one language because of the huge amount of content which is need to be translated. Just to be specific, if anybody cares, so a translator is only capable of translating manually around up to 7,000, 5,000 characters per day. So it's not a huge amount of text which could be translated. When we have a volume, we can just think about translators' capacity and give some precise time estimates for the translations. This is how it works.
I think with that, I am about out of questions. So I guess for you, any more like final topics or final thoughts before we say goodnight?
Yeah, we covered pretty much everything. yeah. Okay. That covers all. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, Alex, I think we will wrap things up for our discussion. This has been great. For you and Alconost, is there any like social media sites, any you'd like to mention for developers to follow or reach out?
Yeah, I live in LinkedIn, so just type Alconost on LinkedIn and subscribe to our page. Also, let's visit our website for some case studies. We have some game case studies there. We are very open, and everybody nowadays they're not Googling, but already asking ChatGPT about game localization companies, and I hope that Alconost pops up in the first place. So let's ChatGPT about localization companies, and I think you'll spot Alconost there. I hope we see some clients coming from that source. So let's find us there.
All right. So with that, we will say goodnight for this conversation. Once again, thank you for coming on, Alex, and best of luck with Alconost and any other future game projects or any projects that you have that you are working on.
Yeah, thank you very much, Josh, for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank the listeners for having us.
Mm-hmm. All right, so for those of you listening, be sure to do all the YouTubing stuff, buy all the many copies of my books, and if you are interested in coming on to talk about any aspect of game dev or game design, be sure to reach out. So with that, come back for daily sessions on game design here and on Game Wisdom, where you send the art and science of games. And until next time, have a great evening.